Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tizengausen. Today is August 13th. The main news at this moment. So the silicone boldworm choked on an apple. That is a fact. Even the conditional and controlled opposition has scared this whole gang of old men in the Kremlin. And here Medvedev's recent statement is very telling. In this statement, he essentially admitted that any dissent and protest are now under the strictest ban. Moreover, protest and dissent are now defined not just as an alternative or different point of view, but even as disagreement with the party line. If you don't agree with Putin, if you don't agree that we need to wage war against Ukraine, that's it. You're an enemy of the people. I'll show you a video now. In it, as in any other video, Medvedev looks very, very unwell. I don't know how he even survives in a state of chronic hangover. It's a mystery. Well, let's watch this video.
Идеологическое противостояние никак не закончится, поскольку вот эти все проблемы, они же есть не только у них, они есть и у нас. Посмотрите, какое количество придурков вынесло на свет Божий вот в этот очень сложный, драматический период. Придурков, ну, таких вот молодых, скажем так, в том числе придурков, которые, не понимая даже, чего делают подчас, ведутся на всякие посулы, деньги какие-то вшивые, или же на то, чтобы, так сказать, там где-то там среди сверстников сказать, что вот он против всего. Ну, это молодежи, естественно, часто свойственно, но проблема-то в чем? Мы просто должны понимать, что с мозгами у многих есть проблемы.
And it turns out that these young people have the audacity to talk about this among their peers, all for the sake of court jesters pickled in ethanol like Medvedev. An aggressive, alcohol-soaked gnome with a constantly trembling gut says that many people have problems with their brains. Yeah, we believe you, demon, we believe you, we can all see it. Well, and in general, you know, it really twists them up that young people don't want to die ingloriously for them. New details have emerged about yesterday's massive attack on Koshay's Needle on the port of Novorossiysk. There is so much interesting stuff there. I'll remind you that Novorossiysk is not only an export gateway for Russian oil and grain, but also a refuge for the remnants of the fled Black Sea Fleet. So Ukraine carried out a large-scale attack yesterday on the Novorossiysk naval base and port facilities. In addition to the port infrastructure and oil loading terminals, 4 Russian warships were hit at once, and almost all of them are carriers of Caliber missiles. The Admiral Essen was hit, a Project 11356R frigate with up to 8 Caliber missiles. In its universal launch systems, it can also launch Onyx missiles. The Admiral Makarov was also hit yesterday, a frigate of the same project, also a carrier of 8 Caliber missiles. The Vasily Bykov, a Project 22,160 patrol ship, and also a small missile ship of the Bayan M project, another carrier of Caliber cruise missiles. In principle, that is its main value. In essence, it also carried 8 Caliber cruise missiles. That is to say, yesterday's raid on Novorossiysk was extremely successful. In addition to the ships, a 30 N6E radar for the S-300 system was hit, a mobile fire group on the pier was wiped out by a drone, the tunnel portal of the Grushevaya oil depot at the Shaskaris terminal, critical infrastructure, and there were also hits on the infrastructure of piers number 3, 6, and 7. In general, it's a complete wrecking, but there's always room for more. Novorossiysk seemed like such an impregnable harbor. It's not for nothing that the remnants of the Black Sea Fleet were herded there. Now the illusion of impregnability has been completely shattered. I came across videos from Novorossiysk residents who are just in shock, who didn't sleep, poor things, and they don't want any more war. Why us? The residents of Novorossiysk lament. But there is another very interesting detail there as well. A multitude of photos and videos have appeared showing local residents in Novorossiysk pulling large caliber machine gun bullets out of their windows, balconies, and cars. And this valiant Russian air defense was just firing in all directions indiscriminately. Let me show you the work of Russian air defense in Novorossiysk. It was quite a fire show. When the drone descended even lower, they were firing at residential buildings opposite the bay. I want to tell you that Ukrainian drones fly exactly to their target, while Russian air defense just fires wherever it happens to hit. And Russians there in Novorossiysk, and indeed in any other Russian city, have a much higher chance of getting hit by a bullet from their own Russian air defense. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's important. You can do it right now without delay. We are fighting against Putin's propaganda, and together we will do it much more effectively. So please subscribe. In general, it's a dark day for the Black Sea Fleet. Information has emerged that a rather significant traitor, the former commander of the Ukrainian submarine Zaporizhzhia, Robert Shagiv, has also been eliminated in Sevastopol. In 2014, this scumbag betrayed his oath and defected to the occupiers, and he even ordered his crew to do the same. That is, they barricaded themselves inside the submarine, and then he surrendered and ordered the crew to come out as well. And later he was made the commander of a Russian submarine. He was promoted. In short, this traitor was eliminated in Sevastopol, the city where I was born. He was eliminated by an explosive device that detonated as he was walking by. That is the fate of a traitor. And I checked the map, it was literally, well, probably a kilometer from the place where I once lived. That is the kind of fate a traitor has. And by the way, that's not all. In Bashkortostan today, there was a strike on one of Russia's largest petrochemical complexes, Gazprom Neftekhim Salavat. It is important to understand the scale of this facility. Gazprom Neftekhim Salavat is not just an oil refinery. It is a huge complex that combines, oil refining, gas chemistry, and the production of petrochemical products. The design capacity is up to 10 million tons of raw materials per year, and the plant produces millions of tons of diesel, gasoline, polyethylene, ethylene, styrene, and ammonia. In general, this plant produced a lot of things until our drones arrived there. But this is, by the way, a repeat strike on Salavat. Almost a month ago, on July 14th, both main primary oil refining units were damaged there. The Russians managed to patch it up a little, but they hadn't launched it at full capacity yet, the plant hadn't recovered, and then our Ukrainian drones added to it. In short, this repair is going to drag on for a long time now, and the range is impressive, 1,460 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. And since the drones had already reached Bashkortostan, they decided to hit the Wildberries facility in the Chishminsky district as well. The total area of this facility is 186,000 square meters. They really hit it hard. It was practically brand new. Part of this logistics hub hadn't even been put into operation yet. Now I'll show you a simply wonderful video of how the drones strike this dual-use goods warehouse with pinpoint accuracy. As they say, the operators on the ground were like, fire at will.
Вон, глянь. Мимо пошел. Раз, вон еще один. Они, видишь, с двух сторон идут. Он оттуда, один оттуда.
And it directly impacts those Russian military-industrial complex enterprises that are no longer being financed by the banks as they once were. It is a compounding economic problem that weakens their ability to sustain these operations over the long term. In other words, this is a direct blow to the Russian Federation's ability to continue this war. And Ukraine is performing an incredible feat. This feat will go down in all history textbooks. And in every episode, we have an important fundraiser for the Defense Forces of Ukraine. We are continuing our fundraiser for a pickup truck for the strike drone unit of the 117th Brigade, which is fighting in the Donetsk direction. The soldiers have recorded a video message for you. Please take a look.
Бажаю міцного здоров'я. Мене звати Максим, я командир взводу ударних безпілотних авіаційних комплексів 4-го батальйону 117-ї бригади територіальної оборони. На сьогоднішній день тримаємо оборону Слов'янсько-Краматорської агломерації, не даючи просунутись ворогу з півночі. Відкриваємо збір разом з спільнотою Бориса Тізенгаузена на цей автомобіль. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Let's help our warriors. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. There is mono, private, and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad. The QR code in the corner also leads to the fundraiser. That's in case you are watching me on another channel. In every episode, I say a special thank you to you from myself and from the hundreds of soldiers you have already helped. You are simply incredible. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, Putin, having assessed the range of Ukrainian drones, apparently decided to play it safe and fled all the way to the Kuril Islands. Lately, he or his replicants have been touring somewhere very far away, so that Ukrainian drones can't reach them. Well, it's understandable that Tokyo has already lodged an official protest regarding this. And Putin visited the Yasny fish processing plant on Niturup, where he once again very strangely hugged and stroked other people's children. Well, here is how it went.
Яромир.
Имя необычное, но красивое. Школу собираешь?
А в 5 класс уже перехожу.
Ты готовишься? Или ты готов?
Я уже готов.
Ой. Тогда теперь привет.
What actually happened behind the scenes. But in general, have you noticed that lately they've been letting more and more kids get close to Putin to show that Grandpa Putin is kind, gets along wonderfully with children, and that he loves people? It's mothballed Soviet-style propaganda intended to show Putin's humanity and kindness. And why didn't he whisper into that boy's ear, "You know, boy, it was actually me who killed your dad, and when you grow up, I'll kill you too, in some war. I will definitely, boy, come up with a war for you, so you just grow up, boy, grow up, I'll need you soon." And new details about the failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump recently in Turkey, when the presidential Air Force One could have been shot down by a manpads. In general, the story there is just something out of Hollywood. If anyone happened to miss it, it turns out they wanted to shoot down Donald Trump's plane at the summit or during the NATO summit in Ankara last month. But the details of this amazing story have only become known now. Trump was transferred to another plane in Ankara, and secretly, due to information about a possible assassination attempt using a manpads, a man-portable air defense system. That is, the intelligence services received information that someone with a manpads wanted to shoot down Air Force One with the US president on board when he arrived at or was departing from the NATO summit. And apparently, the intelligence received was so specific that the American Special Services decided it was dangerous for Donald Trump to leave the summit in Ankara on either of the two presidential planes, so they secretly transferred him to a third aircraft, a military one. Along with him, 3 of his closest aides and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth also moved there. All of this happened last month on July 8th, but the full story has only become known now. Trump personally confirmed that the Secret Service and the military demanded a change to his departure plan because there was a truly serious security threat. It is clear that Iran was behind the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. By the way, Israeli intelligence also passed information to the US about a possible Iranian plot. And the information was very, very alarming. In short, some person with a manpads appeared in the area where the summit was being held. All intelligence agencies reported this immediately. After that, the Americans simply launched a special operation. Trump publicly appeared on board one of the presidential planes on purpose, creating the impression that he would fly away on that very plane. Then he was secretly taken off the plane in a catering service vehicle, well, a catering truck, and delivered to the military aircraft. Wow! The military plane that Trump was taken to is significantly smaller than a Boeing, so they counted on the small plane taking off quickly, and no one would even notice that Trump had been transported there in a catering truck at all. And this is where what has sparked a heated debate in the US right now begins. Flying with Trump on this small military plane were Pete Hegseth and 3 aides, as I already mentioned, Dan Scavino, Natalie Harp, and Walt Nauta. But Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, other White House staff, and journalists remained on the decoy plane. Many of them didn't even know that Trump was in danger, that the plane was in danger, or that Trump wasn't on that plane. And now this is raising a lot of questions in Washington. Well, in fact, the plane with high-ranking officials and Marco Rubio, the head of the State Department, and the press was supposed to act as a decoy presidential plane as if Donald Trump were on board. And if they were really hunting for this plane, why weren't all the others evacuated? Trump to Marco Rubio. Let's meet at the White House for now. Well, how can that be? It is clear that all the planes took off from Turkey, then flew through Great Britain and onto the United States. But judging by the scale of the operation, the Secret Service decided that the threat was indeed serious. But the logic here is clear. I mean, how did some person with a manpads even end up in a super secure area on the territory of the airport or right next to it, where a super secure summit of heads of state was taking place? Turkey, a NATO country. In the end, this person with the manpads disappeared somewhere and information about him was lost. If he really existed, why wasn't he shown? And the second point, this is important. This story didn't surface through some kind of leak, but through a voluntary admission by Trump himself. He's the one who told it more than a month later. Real thwarted assassination attempts on a head of state are usually kept secret for decades. Well, for reasons of secrecy and security, to properly assess sources and methods, whether it went well or poorly, so that all sorts of villains and terrorists don't learn from the mistakes later. But here, on the contrary, there's publicity. Here I am. I was evacuated in a little truck like this. I flew away on such and such a plane. It's clear that this works in Donald Trump's favor. I have many enemies. I am under constant threat. The image of an unyielding leader. I fear nothing. They couldn't get to me. And one more important point. Many media outlets somehow gloss over this point. If the version is even partially true, then we are talking about the ability of an Iranian or some pro-Iranian group to operate in the capital of a NATO country and know the exact location of the US president. Intelligence reported that these villains knew exactly where Donald Trump was staying, in which building, on which floor, where his windows were, and so on, right down to the floor and the specific window. That is, during a NATO summit, this is either a colossal failure of Turkish counterintelligence on its own territory, or the Turkish side is keeping quiet about a lot of things. There is silence about exactly this. Everyone is discussing the catering van, but no one is discussing how Iran could have achieved such a degree of infiltration in Ankara at all. But at the same time, neither a detainee nor a seized manpads nor any public evidence has been presented yet. In short, nothing is clear, but it is very interesting. Well, and today I decided to see what Russian news feeds are filled with. Maybe Novorossiysk, maybe Wildberries, maybe something else. Well, I'm reading the news literally one after another. Electronics sellers and manufacturers have appealed to the Russian authorities, begging for help to support them during this difficult time. The reasons why these are difficult times, of course, no one is naming, but Russian financial experts have replied to them that most likely there will be no business support from the state, but there will be a tax increase. See, how nice. Next news. Putin has been invited to go halibut fishing. See, and what else is there for Putin to do? Of course, catch halibut. But, Russians also got a little bit of digitalization. Another piece of news from this feed. By December, services for searching and purchasing burial plots will become available on the Gosuslugi portal for residents of 21 regions of Russia. And you say there's no digitalization and no improvements. Here they are. And you, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel, don't forget. Let's help our soldiers. The link for the fundraiser is in the description of this video. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.